Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, great. Hey, Fabian.
Hello.
Great to see you. Great to be with you today on stage here at Slush.
Great to be here.
Might want to kick us off with how's Slush been for you up until now?
It's been amazing. You know, I'm a big champion of the European startup ecosystem, so it's great seeing all the founders and the investors and everyone just gathered here together in the Nordics.
Great. Exciting crowd, builder stage. We're going to have a great conversation. So I'll kick us off with a prediction that Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, made a few months ago. He predicted that in 2026, we would see the first billion-dollar company being built by a single founder. You and I met for the first time a year ago here at Slush, where you were literally launching your product and not making revenue yet. 12 months later, right now, you're making 200 million ARR, 200 million euros ARR, and that's a huge achievement. How did you manage to grow that fast? Tell us more.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that has come together, but I think one thing that has really been crucial, and I believe everyone is aware of it, is this new technology that we have in foundational models, which you're very aware of, right? And I think what we did was to package them in a way that was accessible by a lot of people. And our product specifically, it lets people create things. And humans love to create things and be creative. And within the space that we're operating in, which is to create software, that has been gated to 1% of the population. And what our product does and our vision is to really enable and empower the 99% who haven't spent years learning how to code. So I think just the reason that the 99% can now get access and do a lot of things that they've only had the ideas to do before, and now they can actually action them, has been really the source of our growth.
What, because this discussion is also supposed to be about global expansion and how do you expand globally. So what's been the role of global expansion at Lovable, and how have you thought about building products in a way that they were scalable globally very fast?
So before Lovable, actually, I did another startup that I bootstrapped in Sweden, and it was just focused on the Swedish market, and it was within real estate, so it was kind of hard to bring to other markets just by having the same product. You would have to update the product a lot to do it, and I felt I wanted to do something that had a bigger opportunity. And Lovable was really a very conscious choice to build something where anyone could get value from it, and also anywhere in the world. So really from the start, Lovable has been this idea that it's this very horizontal product in terms of that it can do so many different things. And this is a new thing with AI, right? In how you're building product. Before you had to be very opinionated because you had to basically, programmatically write all actions the product can do. And if you want to support a use case, you probably have to write code to support that use case specifically. With our product and using LLMs, right, you can bridge a lot of that. So we provide some abstractions to let you build things predominantly on the web. So those who don't know Lovable, you have a chat and you have a preview, and you can ask it for things, and it builds websites or apps for you. And by relying on LLMs for this, we can build everything from prototypes to landing pages to actual internal tooling or SaaS and customer apps. Where people actually build businesses on it. And all of this is really served by the same horizontal product.
So it's horizontal, very much product-led growth. That makes a lot of sense. So what's the next chapter? What's the next phase for Lovable?
So what we've seen, I think, for the last year is that the underlying technology is really getting to a place where you can do more and more with it. especially on our abstraction, which is really a higher level abstraction where you're just supposed to ask for things, and you don't necessarily have to dive into all of the details, but you can. But what we're seeing in the future, and where Lovable as a product is going to go, is to take more responsibility. So people come to our platform to build businesses, and today we help them mainly to build their product and code it for them. But there's a lot of other things that goes into building a business. And we aim to help people do that. And you talked about these solo entrepreneurs that can build unicorns, the $1 billion startups, right? And one of our goals by 2030 is actually to have 100 of them built on Lovable. And to do that, you need one person to be able to do what 100 people would do before. And that means really making a lot of things seamless, so you don't have to think about everything from how do I do my ads campaign, how do I fix observability for my product. A lot of this should kind of be handled for you, and you as an entrepreneur or founder, you should be able to focus on what you are good at and have deep expertise in, and Lovable will help you with the rest. So going from, I would say, a product building platform to a business building platform. One thing that is very interesting here as well is kind of what happens with the developers and builders, right?
Yeah. How, on that point, with tools like Lovable, how do you see the role of the developer evolving, given how powerful these tools are now becoming?
So what we've seen, right, is that we've gone from the 1% who can do this to the 99%. And we've seen all of these people be able to create things where you before would have to spend years learning how to code. And the way I see it is that we're no longer talking about developers, but we're rather talk about builders, people who actually want to build a thing. Personally, coding has always been a means to an end for me. It's always been to actually build the product itself. And with Lovable and tools like ours, you can really just focus on the product. And I think for everyone here and everyone who's thinking about building, there's a lot of intuition to be gained from learning how to code and building, I would say, products in the traditional way. But the hard skills for that is quickly becoming obsolete with what AI can do. So knowing the syntax of this programming language and line by line knowing how to write this code isn't really the skill set that is needed anymore. But the deep intuition in how to building products is. Behind this. It is really the improvements that we've seen in the LMs that have, over the past year, kind of enabled people to do more and more. And you as, I would say, an insider, right, in one of these leading companies really building these LMs, what do you say about the improvements that we've seen in the last year?
Yeah, so at Anthropic, we, just to kind of give an order of magnitude, so we've had 8 major model releases over the past 2 years, which is really a velocity that's kind of never been seen. And I think we've seen major updates every single time. Now, some people, and I'll just talk about the last one. So our last launch 2 months ago, Sonnet 4.5, in an internal test environment, this is a model that's been running 30 hours autonomously doing extremely complex tasks. Now, sometimes I'm hearing, but are the capabilities of the models kind of plateauing? Are these scaling laws not working anymore? The answer is no. 30 hours autonomous, very complex work is actually tremendous, right? From 7 hours that we were able to do 3 months before that. I think what's happening right now is that the speed of development of these models is still exponential, but the rate at which it's actually being deployed in the markets in the real world is slightly stagnating. And I think that's where the role of the builders that are actually here in the room and elsewhere is becoming bigger, because basically, like, we're building these foundational models, but the software layers on top, the application layers on top, that are going to make the most out of those capabilities are being built by the folks in this room. And that layer, these folks in this room, are going to actually bring these like exponential evolutions to the market, is the way I see it. And just maybe to your previous point, can you share how many people work at Lovable? Like, how big is the company?
Yeah, we're 93 people today.
93 people. So yeah. This is a company doing 200 million ARR, still growing like crazy, with 93 people. And I think, you know, whether you will be the predictions that Dario talked about or not, looks like you might. I think that's what's possible with the AI, these AI tools today that you talked about very well. The ability to do so much with like so, you know, few people is really what enables builders like people in the room to build companies fast, the right products, add a lot of value, is what I'm seeing across the board as well. Talking about, like, are you guys moving into enterprise? Is that kind of one of the next big things?
Yeah, so I think, you know, our strategy so far and our growth really comes from this product-led motion, right? And I feel very fortunate sitting here next to you because I believe we can learn a lot from you, as you've been both at Stripe doing a very similar motion, right? Where really it's the product going out to the market and people learning about it, and then that leads into the enterprise, right? And you know, we're currently in a situation where we get a lot of inbound from the enterprise in, hey, can we actually use your product? And it's, you know, for us as a 93 people operation, it's a struggle to always be able to pick up the phone even. And we're now at a stage with the company where we're expanding quickly into actually being able to serve the enterprise. And we have, you know, a lot of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 already signed up on our platform, and we're beginning to talk with them and explore more how they are deploying Lovable in their businesses. So I'm super curious for you, both on your Stripe motion and the Anthropic motion now, which I must imagine is going incredibly quick. But both of them have been kind of this PLG towards enterprise. So what did you learn, and how do you balance those two approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both those companies, Stripe and Anthropic, in my experience, have been very much product-led growth with developers. But also like enterprise later on, and I think the cycles, like the cycles are getting compressed. It used to be that you would be PLG led and then kind of add the enterprise on top, but in the AI world, things are going so fast that you're kind of compressing those timelines. I think they are, on the go-to-market side, they are nevertheless very different motions, right? The PLG motion is very much a self-serve, product-led growth. Customers come to you, start using your product without you even needing to interact with them. And we're seeing that across the board at Anthropic, whether it's with, you know, Claude Code or any agents that are being built by startups and developers. The enterprise motion is usually very different. You need to have, because those companies are much more complex to serve, have much bigger requirements in terms of privacy, in terms of reassurance, compliance, but also because they need to have much more support in the way they deploy things. You would usually need to have much more local support, local teams in each one of those markets, in each one of those cities. And that's what we're building towards. Like, if I look at, you know, because we're in Europe right now, if I look at the European market, Anthropic, we've been, you know, this has been our fastest growing market at Anthropic over the past year. We've kind of 9x'd our revenues in EMEA. We have offices in London, in Dublin, in Zurich, now in Paris, in Munich, and we're continuing to expand. And that's also to go and be able to talk to the enterprise, because that's what we're destined to do as well, beyond the developers. Now, I think what's really interesting is that it's not one motion and the other one. There actually are cross paths and segues. in that if you have a really good PLG motion, which we have, you actually start seeing developers and IT teams in the enterprise using your product and kind of talking to their bosses about it, talking to their boss's boss. And so as much as you get this enterprise motion coming in from the top, you also get a lot of traction coming in from the developer teams that are actually the ones, even in the large companies, that are building new products, new services, new applications, right? And I think getting that piece of the equation right is always where the magic happens. And so starting with a PLG product is always a good place to start with, because from there you can grow anywhere. Is kind of my experience.
And actually Stripe has been a big inspiration in us in how you're doing this. And we actually had Patrick Collison come and talk to the team about the motion. And he said something very interesting, which I'm happy to get your point of view on, which is that actually you should try to, even when you're starting to go into the enterprise as a product-led growth company from the start, you should really try to focus on still building one cohesive product. And what he said, which I found very interesting and that I'm already seeing parallels to in what we're doing, is that when you're building out these feature sets for the enterprise, such as workspace collaboration and single sign-on, you actually start to see that in your bottom-ups motion, you're getting all of these teams that they might start smaller, but they're growing on your platform, and they're actually really, really happy that you've kind of start building what they will eventually grow into, so that you're not kind of lagging behind the capabilities that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you want to remain a tech company. You want to remain building this platform at scale. That's what we're doing with the Agent SDK. When you look at the products that Novo Nordisk or BMW or WPP or SNCF in France are using from Anthropic, it's basically the same primitives that developers and builders are using, right? And I think that's how we think about product. And so everybody's kind of benefiting from the latest models, the latest products. I think the other piece of this is you should think about, I think many companies out there need to move from thinking about AI as a tool to AI as infrastructure. And that's what's going to happen in the next few years. Today, people think of AI as Photoshop. I'm opening this app, I'm using it, I'm closing it down. I think the way people should start thinking about it and the way this is going to evolve is AI is moving towards more being like electricity. And so we're building the infrastructure, the electric infrastructure that is reliable, custom, and scalable for developers, large companies, startups, scale-ups, digital native businesses to be able to basically run their business and power their business like electricity is how I think about it.
Yeah.
I had one question around, because one thing we didn't talk about when we think about scaling globally is partners. So at Anthropic, we work with lots of partners on all sides. You're a great partner, Lovable. We were just off of a hackathon together that we did just a few minutes ago. We partner heavily with cloud. We've got a strong partnerships with AWS, strong one with GCP. And yesterday we announced that we were the first ever LLM company to be supported on the 3 surfaces because we announced our partnership with Azure. When you think about partners in the way you scale globally, how do you think about partnerships, and selecting partners?
So, in Lovable's history, when we got started, we weren't so sophisticated in how to think about partners. We're more obsessed about finding product market fit and getting that kind of initial traction of the product. And once we got that, it happened very quickly that our traffic started scaling, and we had something when we took down parts of GitHub, and we got shut down because of that, because we hadn't really talked to them.
Yeah.
They didn't know we were going to send them all of this traffic, creating hundreds of thousands of repos per day, and that had very bad effects in some sense on our business. It turned into great PR this time, but it led to downtime, which is something as we're scaling even more, that we actually start to value more and more these deeper relationships with partners. And I mean, taking you as an example, we've been, since really Sonnet 3 and 3.5, 3.7, 4, 4.5, and so on, we've been heavily relying on your foundational models, and both in actually using the models you've trained, and then also doing inference via you guys. And it's been incredibly important that we've had this a shared Slack channel, this deep relationship where we can go back and forth, we can give input on the model, and kind of where we see potential things we want to improve for our specific use case, and you also coming with tips and tricks in like, oh hey, this is actually how you can improve the usage. So it's been an absolute blessing that the past 1 year. For us, it's a big compounding effects in the improvements you make on the foundation model layer, and the improvements that we can do on the agentic and the orchestration layer, and that combined is really the improvements that we keep on seeing in our products. So deeper partnerships is definitely one learning as you start scaling.
Great, yeah. So it's about model at the frontier, best coding models. It's about how we partner in terms of product development, but also day-to-day, partnership. Yeah. Some people, I mean, there's talks about an AI bubble. What's your take on that?
Well, there's a lot of investments in this space. Yeah. I think that's that's a fact, and I think there's also a lot of underlying value that I see from my perspective when we build these 100,000 apps per day, and some of them are prototypes and so on, and some of them actually go out in the world and they get ARR by themselves, and often they're sometimes they have with AI to do, and sometimes they're totally unrelated to AI, and I think that is kind of proof to me that what we're doing goes outside of the bubble, and there actually is a lot of underlying value, and I think that's kind of hard to argue against, that hey, there's actually value being created here. Then I think the question is are all of these bets being taken in the space, are they gonna pay out? And I think it's quite obvious that not all of them are going to pay out, but the fact is that the underlying technology is such a step change in what we've been able to do that there is a lot of hype around it, and there is a lot of bets being made, and some of them will pay out, and they will most likely pay out big if you're actually able to kind of capture and win the market. So what we're just focused on is to continue creating value for our customers, and I think as long as we do that, and that's our main focus, I'm not too worried about a bubble.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a similar thing, and sometimes in larger companies, you can see like teams or companies kind of trying to throw AI at stuff because that's what they need to be able to tell the markets. And that's obviously the wrong approach. Like, as long as you're building a product that has value for your customers, like AI bubble, no AI bubble, that's not the question. If it has value, it has value. And that's where it's, that value is being built. And so focusing on that piece is, I think, what I'm seeing as being the right recipe. So, so Lovable is all about enabling creativity and people to start, build products and companies kind of on their own if they're not developers. That's kind of where you started from. Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example of like a company or something that's been built that you find particularly interesting, fun?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is the most interesting for me, it's not necessarily the kind of the ideas and so on, what people are doing, but it's more about the persona of the people behind them. So, and often I think the most inspiring examples are where you have someone that's been kind of, dreaming about this idea of building something, but they haven't had, the time to go and learn how to code, or they haven't had the money to, pay someone like me or a developer to code it for them. And when you hear these stories and how they're actually being able to use Lovable to create these companies, and they're raising money. We have one example of two people from the Nordics actually building out a fashion brand, or kind of where you can try out clothes and using AI to kind of do your style. And I think they reached 700,000 ARR in under a year. And these are examples where there's people who do not have previous experience either building products or coding, but they have an idea, they have some type of deep expertise within a field. They've often worked within a field and seen that, hey, this is how you can optimize things or do them better, and then they can go to our platform and just turn that into reality. So to me, in the beginning, I think I was mostly motivated by, we're doing some cool stuff with AI, and it was great to be kind of early in that. And now going at this for year after year, I think my motivation for building Lovable has really it becomes evident that it really comes from these people that you're enabling, and just talking with them and hearing their passion, and what we're unlocking for is kind of what keeps me going, and for the next decade and more, hopefully.
You got a room of builders here. You were in this room a year ago, sitting in these seats. One advice for this group.
So on the topic of, I think, AI being a bubble and all of this, one thing that I think is extremely important and extremely smart to do as a founder today is that these LLMs haven't been around for too long, at least not in the state that they're in today. So there's really just been about a year of the capabilities that we have, and even 1 year ago they're drastically different from today. And that means that if you can harvest this power today and combine it, often with either some business knowledge or just kind of different parts of the AI stack, like generating text and images, and just combining this potentially with existing APIs or anything really, it's up to all of you to figure that combination out. But once you start just leveraging this, you're actually very early in the game. Most people haven't figured this out yet, and by simply going out there and trying out things and building for something that creates value today, I think there is a lot of value to be captured by simply the quality of foundational models we have today.
So all the value is still ahead of us. You heard this, group. Thank you, Fabian. I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that someone in this room will be sitting here next year and hopefully having the same story that you've been having over the past 12 months. Thank you, Fabian.
Amazing. Thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you.